It feels like the Bearcats announced themselves to the state with authority. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the IRIC Real Estate Pilot Point Football Show. As the Bearcats, some say, shock the state by beating fifth-ranked Palmer in dominating fashion. In Palmer, by the way, 44-28. A game that Grant Goodwin and I, was sideline to sideline, was out. First off, great to meet everybody that we met. Enjoyed meeting the broadcast crew. Got to meet the superintendent, the great Dr. Shannon Fuller. Wonderful to meet everybody out there. What an experience. And give Palmer credit. That's a fun game time experience there. Love the stadium being right there on the main road. They were excited. It was just what a district playoff game should be. And, man, Pilot Point came out swinging early and often, as 13 points in the first quarter, and Palmer could just never catch up. And mainly because they could never stop that Pilot Point run game. 486 yards on only 52 carries. That's crazy. Only 52. I mean, that's a lot in a game, but you're talking about nearly a 9.5 yards per clip there, 6 touchdowns. And as Coach will say, and we've talked about it before, the biggest thing is it's not like it's one guy. You had 3 guys get 100 or over 100 yards. You had another one get 66 yards, another one with 36 yards. It was big run plays. It was grind them out run plays. And then that defense held on long enough. Palmer's offense is explosive at times. The Cisnero brothers are the real deal, as we saw. But, man, they could just never get untracked against Pilot Point. Whenever it felt like they were about to take control, like it felt like to me the end of the first half, Palmer was starting to gain control. And then Pilot Point toughs out that last drive. A couple penalties went against Pilot Point, but then a couple penalties helped Pilot Point. They got that field goal to make it a 2-point game. And I just really felt that was really, really important to go into the locker room with at least a 2-score game, and they did. And then every time in that third quarter when it looked like Palmer was about to rise up, Pilot Point shut them down. And that kind of, I felt like that's when the air went out of the Palmer balloon. But, man, either way, what a great win for Pilot Point. Now, to make this win stay great, you got to now beat the teams you're supposed to beat the rest of the way. You know who else you can't beat? That's IRIC Real Estate and Chance Kirby. Now, Chance is, of course, been doing this for over 25 years. So if you're going to buy in the Lake Ray Roberts area, there's nobody else you're going to want to talk to. You can give him a call, 940-300-6900, or you can text him. It's the same number, by the way. And if, again, you're making what most likely will be your biggest financial decision of your life, you're going to want to trust somebody that knows the business, knows the area, is honest, and will do right by you and make sure you get what you looking for. He's not going to try to oversell you just to bump up his side of it. He's going to make sure you're happy with what you get at IRIC Real Estate. So again, give him a call or text 940-300-6900. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's the head coach of the Pilot Points, Coach Chad Worrell, right here on the IRIC Real Estate Pilot Point Football Show. Again, it was so nice meeting who all we met out there at the Pilot Point game. And want to remind you, we were there not because I do a Pilot Point show, not because I'm a friend with Chad Worrell, which both of those are true, but we also do a Class 3A show each and every week called Sideline to Sideline. We also do a 4A and a 2A show. So check them out. You can go to YouTube, youtube.com/@L4 Media Company. You can go to our podcast platform. That's S2SGrantandTerry.com, or on all other podcast platforms. Just type in Sideline, the number 2, Sideline, and you'll find us there. We usually just kind of talk games around the state. Like this week, a lot of our review was talking Palmer and Pilot Point. That's how big of a win that was for Pilot Point. And then we preview the week that is. We have Coach X, a real coach who writes in on humorous things. Come playoff time, we'll have the infamous playoff tree. I can't even describe it other than the playoff tree. You'll see when he shows up here in a few weeks. So please check us out again. Go to YouTube, youtube.com/L4 Media Company. Now back to the show. Put it back here on the Pilot Point Football Show. Now joined by the head coach of the Bearcats, Coach Chad Worrell. And Coach, congratulations. Dare I say this might, even over the playoff game, might be the biggest win since you've become the head coach of Pilot Point, as y'all beat Palmer 44-28.
Yeah, it was a big win for us for sure. You know, it just obviously, and they're all big whenever you win a game that, of that magnitude, especially, early on in district, you did defeat the, defending district champion. And like I said, it was a big win. I'm proud of our kids.
You and I were talking before we started recording, and you brought up a good point. And this is what you want to do when you're the supposed underdog. Y'all got up on them early with a couple big plays, a couple of big defensive stands, and it kind of felt like y'all punched them in the mouth, and they just didn't respond.
Well, I just think we grabbed the momentum, and momentum is so important, in games, and whether you're on whichever side you're on, you kind of we gained the momentum early for sure, and I thought we did a good job of holding on to that and really not giving them any huge plays to get them back into it. We definitely they were going to make their plays, and we kind of limited their big plays and made them work for their scores, and then held that momentum. It felt like the field goal before half was big. I
Yes.
thought taking that. Getting that extra 3-point lead going in there, knowing they were going to get the ball, but then also getting the stops in the third quarter when they had made some adjustments and our offense kind of stalled out a couple of drives, they weren't getting any points out of it either. So I thought that was huge.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. At the end of the first half, when it looked like they had kind of maybe got momentum, y'all grabbed it back with an important field goal. And again, the momentum is so important, but especially for a team like y'all that, y'all aren't going to fling the ball around the field. If y'all get down a couple scores, it can tend to be an issue. And so the offense and the ground game, you had almost 500 yards on 52 attempts.
Yeah, and even within that, I mean, anytime you rush for 486 or 48 yards or whatever it was, that's a huge night, and offensive line gets credit and all that. But we had three different backs over 100 yards. It
Mhm.
wasn't one guy doing it, and so I was really proud. We know that we've got different guys that can carry the ball and can rest the other guys since they're playing defense. And I thought our depth offensively of people that can carry the ball and make plays, really was huge for us to be able to do that.
Well, as important as the offense was, the defense, because you and I both talking, before we recorded last week and then talking at the game Friday, you felt Palmer was going to get their points, but your defense, especially the pressure in the second half, was so huge.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the goal going in was to hopefully limit their big plays. Last year we could not get them off the field on third down, and that was the difference this year. We were able to get them off the field and make plays on third down and keep them in third and longs most of the night. And with Cisneros, that was the key. Throwing them for losses and or no gains and putting them in third and long situations to have a chance to get them off the field. And man, I was proud of the way our defense everybody rallied to the football. We rotated some guys in there to keep fresh legs. We rotated in some different linebackers to keep fresh legs because there was a lot of running, sideline on their stretch plays and stretch scheme and passing the ball and stuff like that. So our kids, our depth showed up. I thought we were able to keep fresh legs out there. The guys that we were out there did a good job of rallying to the football and making tackles.
All right. Now, this only stays one of the biggest wins for you if y'all continue the momentum this week. You got a Dallas A-plus Academy team. They're 4-1. They're 0-1 in district. When you look at the film, what do you think of the Knights?
I mean, they're really improved over last year. Coach has done a great job there of, getting those kids, and they're another year into his system. And, he's done a good job, and they're really good at what they do. They run the ball. They try to control the clock a lot like us, try to shorten the games and keep the games as close as they can, as long as they can. So, the challenge there is going to be getting them off the field on offense. And then every time we get the ball on offense, be able to go execute.
I know this is weird to say because of where Pilot Point has come from, but this has now become what I would call a classic trap game. Is that something y'all talk about this week, or do you try to avoid that topic?
No, we did. We talked on Monday about, I just tell the kids, that sometimes a big win's harder to get over than a loss. And, a loss will refocus your kids, and it'll refocus everybody, and you'll lock in that next week. And sometimes a big win, it's hard to get over that. And, told them not to read I still call them newspapers, but not to read the articles about them, and, not to believe all the stuff they read this week, because, we still got a lot of work to do, and we still got a lot of room to get better. And so our kids have had a good week of practice. They did a good job of, refocusing and really, I think, putting that behind us and moving on and next man up mentality.
Are you surprised by where you're at after that Lindsay game 3 games ago and then beating Palmer, or do you feel like? I guess I'm saying, is this team exceeding your expectations up to this point this year?
No, they're really not. I mean, we knew all spring and summer that, we had gotten stronger and faster, and this is a good group. Last year last year was last year. I mean, we struggled to kind of learn our system and kind of got in a groove late, and we're just really kind of picking up on where we left off, the second half of last season. You're not going to have your A game every week. I mean, no matter where you're at, you can't play you can't play. We want to as coaches, and I think we want to as fans. We want to play our best game every single week. In reality, you're going to have some down weeks, and you're going to have some weeks where you make some mistakes or you don't play as good for whatever reason, and we're just going to continue to try to get better and move on and keep focused on the next game.
How important is it in this district to be sitting 2-0 and with a game in hand against a team like Palmer?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you control your own destiny at this point, and that's what it's all about. Is you want to be able to control your own destiny. You don't ever want to, you don't want to ever have to rely on someone else to help you out. And we're 2-0, and our goal here is to be 3-0 going into our bye week next week. And if that's the case, I mean, if we can get there and get that done this week, that's our goal right now, is to be 3-0 headed into our bye week next week.
As always, I want to thank the head coach, Chad Royal, for joining us here on the Pilot Point Coaches Show. Also, again, want to thank IRIC Real Estate for being the sponsor. Please reach out to Chance Kirby if you are looking at buying something in the Lake Ray Roberts area, 940-300-6900. And again, he helps run one of the best broadcasts that you're going to find. I even went back and rewatched the game when we got home Friday night. It was nice to be, I live in DFW, and it was nice to be able to get back home on Friday night. Usually we're staying at a hotel, which is fun too, but still got home, popped up the broadcast. And even though they had some cell phone issues, it was still a top-notch broadcast. And one of the things I like about their broadcast is some of these, and there's homerism, and it's fun, but they're not, they're giving Palmer credit when Palmer made great plays. They're giving Palmer's players credit for being good. And you get some of these hometown broadcasts, and they're going to go out of their way, not necessarily to run down the other team, but never give the other team credit. And I think this crew does a really good job. So please check them out on YouTube, Pilot Point Bearcats. All right. Now you have to continue winning to make this win, which I say is the biggest win since Chad got there. Coach Royal got to Pilot Point, and that's including upsetting Mahia in the playoffs. And I know that was awesome, and that's a great win. And it's also gave him an extra week of practice, which is so important. But just for what this game can mean, because it hasn't meant it yet, depending on how this season goes in the district, but what it can mean is so vital. And that's why I think this was the biggest win. But it can only stay the biggest win until the next biggest win. And the way you do that is you beat the teams you're supposed to. Like this week, Dallas A+, who's going to have some talent. You're going to look across the field and say, man, this team got some talent. They are 4-1, but you have to go look at who they've played, and they've struggled even in some of those wins. But, yeah, you want this Palmer win to stay big, well, then you beat the teams you're supposed to do. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week. Let's meet back here next week on the IRIC Real Estate Pilot Point Football Show on L4 Media.